I welcome you with the warmest mama bear hug and a little bit of a titty squeeze so you feel really welcome and home here on this channel. If you're new to the family, you're in for a wild ride. This channel is my digital love letter to the energetics of the empress, the highest divinity embodied. So each and every video is designed as a session meant to untangle deep rooted suffering, limiting belief structures, energetic laws that were created unconsciously or were created for you that aren't serving your highest expression of divinity. So you will leave every single video different than you came in. You will leave transformed. You will leave shifted. There is something being untangled in the background in your subconscious while you're embarking on this journey with every single session. So before we get into this, I want to make a couple announcements, and they might throw me off in the middle of it, or I might forget it. And it's vital. I want you to know that. And then I'm going to drop deep into the topic, deep into the transmission, which is a really, really fun one today. It's the mastery of play, which is the absolute abundance amplifier, the gateway for beauty, and truly the frequency of quantum leaps. So I am, as always, open for quantum healing sessions. If you feel the call, if you want to work really deep, I am open for quantum healing sessions. They allow truly space for you to open up and for me to work with your open field. I love them in person because I combine them with body work, but online sessions are immensely healing as well. So I'm very much open for that. And there's more information on my website, and there's more information on the YouTube videos as well. Go and watch Sound of Freedom. Like, if you haven't watched, go and watch Sound of Freedom. Like, it's in the theaters right now. Go support that cause. And in that, we're having a summit here in November on the 11/11 portal. So from 10th to 12th November, it's called SEDONA Starseed Summit. It's what my man and I are putting on. It's becoming a yearly thing now. We started last year and we had beautiful people like the Water Priestess, Matt Kahn, like the OG Angelic. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with him. Sandra Walter, and a lot of like people that are new but powerful. So this year's intention is the rising phoenix. So the expression of the feminine. And all of our profits are going to OUR, the Underground Railroad Project, which is what that movie is based on. So please go and watch it. Make a check mark on your calendar for that 11/11 portal if you feel called. I will be there. We are setting up the structure. I will be speaking. This is going to be a 3-day like immersive experience in Sedona. So remember that. And also, one-on-one work is still open in September. I'm opening 3 spots for intense one-on-one work with me. The Quantum Shift container. If you feel the call, if you feel like you're in this, if you need that extra push, if you're kind of like in this like identity intersection where that one version, the German in me came through, that one version is no longer really alive, but it's playing out its last like grand finale, but the new version isn't truly anchored yet. So I'm there. I'm that project doula. I'm that birth doula, literally, and for your projects, for your new versions. So I got you. You can reserve your spot right now because they're limited, and it's a potent container. I'm in one right now, and it's more than just calls. Like, there is a whole curriculum created for a 3-month container. So you will have basically a whole course and modules that will walk you through every single week And then we get on calls. A quantum healing session is our kickoff start with that. So it's very, very potent. I've done a lot of one-on-one work with people, like where I was on the receiving end. There's a reason why it took me a long time to actually get my work out there, like other than my QHHT sessions, which I've been doing for over 5 years. But that coaching work, it took me a long while, and I know why. Because what is great takes time. And the care and love that this is curated with is nothing that I've seen like that before. So that are my announcements. Okay, so now let's dive into this topic, because this is going to be exciting. Whew. So the Empress is the master of play. And to come back to the encodement of the Empress, what do I mean when I say Empress? The Empress itself is an encodement. Whatever you have in mind when you hear the word Empress, when I speak the word, it comes with everything that I already embody and everything that I perceive and hold, and also the highest encodement of the word itself, even the aspects that I can't grasp yet. So it's a whole data package that is being transmitted to you just by the word alone. And the Empress is nothing artificial or superficial. It is raw truth. To me, it is the most truthful embodiment of the divinity that I can at this point grasp. So it has nothing to do with putting a crown on and like running around in women's circles. Like, no offense, that can be a part of it, but it has nothing to do with that. And yeah, I like to get pretty. I like to do my hair here and there. I like to show off. That's fun to me. That's play to me. But that's not what the Empress is about. Like, not at all. The Empress is the sum total of mastered and embodied archetypes. The Empress is the lotus flower that grew in the mud. The Empress is the diamond that was created through coal. The Empress is the governess, one of her archetypes, the governess embodied. That means that aspect of you that protects your field, the aspect of you that gets fierce when boundaries are crossed, the aspect of you that makes sure that you are safeguarded and protected within this vessel, and that your discernment is on point, right? The one with razor sharp intuition and discernment, the one that scans people, like not even consciously, but just knows what is in truth and what is not. The Empress is the mastered embodiment of the warrioress, right? The embodiment in us that stands for her truth, that will love for truth, and if need be, fight for truth. The Empress is the eternal child, the wild child, right? Sorry, the German in me is confused with the English. You get what I'm saying. The wild, got it. Sorry, the wild child. So the eternal inner child in us, the playful one, the shining one, the smiling one, the wild one, the savage one, like all of that, the innocent one, like that inner child is embodied in the Empress. The Empress holds the archetype, the mastered archetype of the meretrice, which is the high-end concubine, meaning the master of inner and sexual alchemy, the master of practices of beauty and the art of beauty. And there are lots more to that. These are just tastes and examples. So the Empress is basically the container that holds all of these mastered embodied archetypes. So there is nothing superficial when I'm using this word. This goes really deep. And this is, to me, again, the embodied highest divinity. So this is what this is all about. And again, the Empress is the master of play. And this is what our whole topic is going to be about. The energetics of play. So, came prepared. And I need my masculine structure to be in my feminine flow at times. Whew. So play and the frequency of play is probably the frequency that is closest to our eternal home. Like the universe itself is play. The universe experiences play. You and I only exist because of play and that longing for play. And so play is the key and the door to your desired reality. It's the energy of quantum leaps. And I want you to picture that. We spoke about wormholes in a different video, and this video is actually really potent, so I recommend you watching it, where I go deeper into what that is. But it's basically the fast, instantaneous travel route from one dimension to another, from one reality to another. And play is the vehicle that moves you through that wormhole and also creates that wormhole to that other dimension in which all of your desires are already existing. So play is the fast route to that. And for that, the Empress is very much in tune with her desires. And you know me by now, or a lot of you do, I'm always fine-tuning frequencies. And the frequency of desire, of the word, there's just something that just doesn't like hit the spot for me. Like if we look into the etymology, you can interpret it in many different ways, but there are a couple of very questionable interpretations, and the etymology and the root of the word is a little questionable, to me at least. There's something off. So I was looking for a different word for desire. And one of it is the Greek word epithemia. And I love this word because epi and themia means upon the soul. Upon the soul. And that's what our desires basically are. They are this glimpse into our soul. They are this glimpse into, if the joy of our soul could express itself, it would express itself in what? Epithemia, desires. So that makes it really, really innocent and pure. And so for the Empress, desires are never problems. Epithemia is never a problem. It's always play. So anytime there is an epithemia, a desire, a longing, it is play for the Empress. That's her invitation of like, okay, and now I'm going to go and play. The way she magnetizes this is through play. So the whole realm of epithemia is the realm of play. And there's the Maori word for desire, which is hia. And it's like listen to that. And another word I found in Omoro, I don't even know what that language is and where it's coming from. Havi, hia, epithemia. Just tune into that frequency. It's a much higher frequency than desire. These words created a dimension of play. That's how your soul expresses its joy in epithemia. So the way we get to that is through play. These words themselves encapsulate the frequency of play. So we will never get there by working hard, being super serious, trying to control everything. The wormhole to get there and the vehicle through the wormhole is play. So let's play. And I want to give you an example that did basically inspire this whole session today. And it is a conversation I had with one of my, I don't want to say clients. These are the women I'm co-creating with, right? They're not my clients. It doesn't feel right. They're the women I'm currently co-creating with. So in her session, she was telling me about her mother. And may she rest in freaking power. And I know she is. So her mama was that just like spirit inspiration. She was just this strong force of the wild feminine and the playful feminine. And she was telling me that her mom would just be in her playfulness all day, just be in her roots, be in her truth and authenticity. And a lot of times her mom would do like water fights in the house to a point where my client, you know what I mean? She was almost like, okay, like I'm the child, but I have to supervise here. This is getting a little out of control. I don't know if we can do this. But her mom was just in her playful essence, right? To a point where her dad would work in the factory, not in a managing position, but like actual factory labor. And he would work all day and he would come home. And oftentimes, if her mom wasn't feeling it, she wouldn't prepare food, or she was just doing her thing with the kids and playing. And her dad would come home, and after that long, strenuous like work shift in the factory, he would still cook and, you know, do the dishes and all of that. And in our session, she was almost like, I looked at my mom like she wasn't really being responsible as the woman and almost selfish. And I looked at my dad like he was weak. But she's like, my dad wasn't even passive aggressive or anything. He came home, basically worked his ass off in the factory, but did it. And he did it with a smile on his face. Like he did it, like there was no anger in that, or there wasn't even, like I couldn't even feel a thought of like, oh, now I have to do this too. It was just natural. And what I totally get where she was coming from. Very valid. But when she shared that story, all that I could think about and all that hit me was like, whoa, that's exactly it. The masculine will give everything he has and do anything just to witness the feminine in play, just to witness the feminine in her essence. And while all these other things are valid, that was the only thing that really hit home for me. That was, to me, the deepest truth of that interaction. And now, the energetics of play are like a charging station for the whole field. That is what is life-giving. That is what is safety. If her dad came home to a woman that was overly controlling and like, oh, I got to do this and has a whole list of chores that needed to be done. And yes, she cooked the dinner, but there was stress, or that wasn't what she was most excited about. Her dad would feel drained, and maybe then her dad would feel, oh my God, I just did this 12-hour work shift, whatever, and she didn't finish the cooking. But that wasn't the frequency at all, because he came home to a woman in her essence, a woman in play. And that in itself is so recharging for the masculine. That is what the masculine lives for. This is what will make a man work 12 hours and then cook the dinner, bring the kids to bed, and wash the dishes with a freaking smile on his face and a sense of, that's what I live for. And you will see that the women that are in play and the women that know how to prioritize play are the women that are protected by the masculine. These are never women that you will hear complain that the masculine isn't showing up or that the masculine isn't providing or whatsoever. These are the women that will naturally create so much safety for the masculine through that play that they will pull out the masculine providing safety for them. And so play is so much more than just enjoyment. When a woman is playing, when the feminine is playing, it means the universe is at peace. And you cannot watch the feminine play and at the same time feel unsafe. It's not possible. So the greatest gift a woman can give to the world, to the universe, to the energetics is to play and be in her playfulness. And now I mentioned safety. The way the masculine provides safety is very different than the feminine provides safety. And we got it mixed up, or a lot of us, even women, are attempting to provide safety through the way masculine provides safety. And that is just not the way. The masculine provides safety by providing a container, energetically, physically, by providing the house, providing financials, providing the food. Like, let's think back of tribal days. They hunt, they build, they provide, they safeguard. Like, just very simple and easy. So at this point, the masculine provides safety by, again, providing physical safety, like being the one that can actually like beat someone up if need be, like the warrior that can actually fight if need be to protect his family and you. The masculine provides safety by, again, creating a house, an environment in which you feel safe. The structure for it brings the money home. So there is safety. Like, these are the ways that the masculine provides safety. And now a lot of women are attempting to provide safety in the same ways by working, controlling, providing, safeguarding. That's not the way the feminine provides safety. The feminine provides safety by play. And it is just as vital. If both are attempting to provide safety the masculine way, the joy and the actual safety is missing. No one will ever feel truly safe because that other component of safety isn't provided. And all women that are complaining or witnessing that the man isn't providing safety, it's because they are not providing safety. They are not providing safety the way the feminine was created to provide safety, by sensual play, divine play. Now just picture that scenery. Your man comes home from work, and he sees you, like getting everything done, trying to control, trying to plan out, trying to like maybe even get another job, hustling, working, work mode, go mode. Boss ass babe, like getting everything done. Doesn't need anyone. She does it all by herself. Versus creative chaos. Beautiful mess, right? Singing, dancing. Maybe she didn't get all the chores done, but she's having a freaking dance party. Maybe she didn't like get all like the boxes checked, but she's naked having a blast while cooking, right? Like, picture these two frequencies The mother that the house is perfectly clean, the children are all having their homework done, everything is perfect. Or the mother that is having a paint party with the kids and he's coming home to that and there's laughter and there's joy, right? Just picture these two realities. What do you think will create more safety for the masculine? The masculine that sees that beauty, that laughter, that feminine, beautiful chaos, that creative mess when it's not, but that expression, he will work extra hard if need be to provide for that, just to come home for that. Like in the example with my beautiful woman that I work with, the man that sees that has to go into energy conservation mode, because that woman that, yeah, okay, she got all the chores done, the kids have their homework done, everything is in control, but she's not a radiant battery of life for him. So he will go into energy conservation naturally, because he's like, well, this woman doesn't know how to play, therefore this woman doesn't know how to, and that's subconscious, of course, and not even known to most men. That's just happening subconsciously. Wow, this woman doesn't know how to play, this woman doesn't know how to bring the energy of joy, but she's a hard worker, so I'm not getting energy here, I have to go into energy conservation mode to be able to then work again. Like that's just happening naturally. So if you are holding that epithemia, that desire of more protection, more providing from your man, get into more play. Let go of a lot of things. Let him handle a lot of things that you thought, oh, he's not taking care of, and if he's not taking care of, I have to. We'll see what happens if you let that fall back into his realm and you play instead. That doesn't mean that this is not about taking advantage. Trust me, your man will want to see you in play. You're actually fueling him by doing that. You're actually supporting him a million times more by being in the frequency of play. You think you're providing that list for him or you're organizing for him is supporting him? It's not. It will make him go into energy conservation mode, while your joy and your play will last him with energy, and he will do more, be more, work harder, work smarter, just so he can have more time with you, just so he can provide more for you, play more with you. So that's one thing to be very mindful about. The way the feminine creates safety is very different than the way the masculine creates safety. And if you see the masculine not doing its job, it's because you're trying to take the masculine's job and you're not doing the feminine job. Phew. So the number one belief in most of women and most of humanity itself is life isn't safe. It's one of our number one belief structures that is unconsciously or maybe consciously playing out and creating an energetic law in our life. The way you break that law, the way you rewrite that law is by play. So as you play, life becomes safe. And I spoke about sensual play because play is always sensual. And when I use the word sensuality or sensual play, I don't necessarily just mean that 90s R&B, Donald Jones, shorty got her eyes on me type of sensuality. Sensuality is just the experience of the body. It's a sensuous experience. The experience of the senses. You just immersing yourself in your surrounding in totality. So you can taste, hear, feel, touch, smell, all of it. So to play we have to know how to be in our body. There will be no play if we do not know how to access our sensuality, the beingness of our body. So that is quite foundational, but we'll get into the basics because it's vital. Because without that foundation, everything that I'm going to share with you after that to create more play will be quite meaningless because you don't even know how to inhabit your body. And most women that I work with are struggling with being in their body. And you hear it in the way they experience the moment, right? Instead of just like dropping in, they're in their head. How do they look like? You know, are they going to say the right thing? Especially women that are still working in that 9 to 5 realm, right? This trying to be professional, or people that are, or women especially, that are a lot around mainstream society. Most of them live throat upward. Like all of their energy is up here, and very little is happening in the lower dantians, in the lower realms of the body. That's a big freaking problem because up here, you can't play. I mean, you can't play chess and shit, but I'm speaking about actual playfulness, experience life as play. For that, we will have to be in our body because that's a sensual experience. It's an experience of being present. It's an experience of being in the body. Without being in the body, we can't play the way the feminine plays. So we've been all trained to not exist in our body. So there is no shame in that. It is not your fault. There's nothing wrong with you. There's just more beauty to be invited back. Because our nature is the experience of the body. And what I mean with not being in the body is that if someone has like third eye vision, what they would basically see is that the whole energy of the body is almost limp and dead down here, and it's all happening here. So that's the whole thing when I'm like, oh, I'm so in my head. It's because the energy distribution should be evenly out distributed into the body, the legs, the feet, your lower chakras, the root chakra, the sacral, like the lower dantians, your sexual organs, just everywhere, free flowing in your lungs. But it's all up here. Our life experience has become an experience of the mental rather than a bodily experience. And so to play, we're bringing you back to the body. And I want us to go back to our childlike nature. Actually, go back to when you were 3 years old, 4 years old. As a child, you are naturally in your body, right? You run, you dance, you sing, you play, just everything is play in life. Like the way you render your whole existence is through play. Like the way you would move was through play. Sometimes you were jumping, sometimes you were crawling, sometimes you would swing like a monkey. Like everything was just curiosity and experience. Just like, how do I experience this? How does this feel? Right now, my body feels like doing this. Right now, out of nowhere, my body feels like screaming really loud. Like you sometimes see children just like screaming like freaking psychos out of nowhere, and they're having a blast about it. Or sometimes you see children just like jumping and running out of nowhere just because it's fun, it's play. That's just the way their body wants to express. And if I go back as a child, every time I would leave the house, I was always on some sort of secret mission. Like, remember that. Like, as a child, we would just never go from A to B. Like, if I would walk from home to my kindergarten, which was around the corner, I wouldn't just walk like do, 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 do. I was like, no. And now, for the next 3 minutes, I'm pretending that I'm the father and I'm actually going to work or some shit like that. Or I was like, oh, and now this time when I'm walking home from school, I will find all of the grasshoppers on the way and I have to count them all. Like, I would always just engage in some weird secret mission. Like, we had malls in Germany and I grew up in like a small town in the 90s, so it was super safe, so you could actually like run around. So we had these malls with like food courts and beautiful Italian restaurants, and my mom would sit there and I would just stray off and just explore the whole mall. And that whole thing, I was always on a mission. Like, I would pretend that I'm invisible and no one could see me, and I had to hide and I had to observe, and everything I did was play. Or it's like you had to like jump on tiles and you couldn't walk, and the way you had to move forward was by like skipping the tiles and only step on every second one and jump on it. You get what I'm saying? Like, as a child, we didn't just go through our day. We broke up our day into play containers, right? So everything was play. And even by myself, when I was by myself, I did that. Or when a friend came over, you never just hung out with your friends as a child, right? You would always play. Okay, what do you want to play? So you would either maybe play house, or in my case, with my best friend, our playing house just always turned to, oh, do you just want to play mother and father? And we just never had a child. And the father got a little rapey. Like, this is not covert trauma coming out. We were just exploring as children, right? So playing house was just us, like me and my best friend, we were just kind of rubbing on each other. So like, whatever it was, or we played that we were Pokemons. You get the picture. Like, tap back into that energy as a child. You wouldn't just go through your day. You would just follow one like hit of intuition up to the next, and you would create one game and one play, and you would move on to the next play. And you wouldn't speak to just transmit information. You would speak to make someone laugh, or you would speak to make someone get it, like have a reaction. You would speak and observe how would someone react to what you just said. Like, everything was an exploration, was a curiosity, and therefore play. Anytime we engage in something with curiosity of a child, it will be play. And so that's our nature. Now, if you allow children to just be in that, because that is genius, you will have 7-year-olds in school and you will have one like corner of children just drawing, and one corner of children creating music and singing, and one creating a play and a musical or a theatrical experience. And you will have some of them creating something with wood in their hands, and maybe even whatever, like creating tools. And you will have some children being all about numbers and mathematics or whatever. And some just running and climbing and playing with their bodies and doing wild acrobatic things. Like, you will see pockets of genius everywhere you look if you just allow children to be. If you just allow them to be. And that's where we're moving. That's what we're creating for our next generations. This is what we're creating for our children, so they can stay in their immense natural genius. But now what happened to us? Instead of being allowed to let that genius of play unfold, we were put into schools at kind of like the age of 7. I don't know how it was in the US or anywhere else, But in Germany, like kindergarten was still kind of very playful. We have great education when it comes to kindergartens. I mean, that's where the the word comes from. So it's very holistic, like the way German kindergartens are kind of like organized. The same here in Sedona. You have like nature kindergartens where children just play and explore nature. It's beautiful. But like at the age of 7, you're put into school. All of a sudden, that natural urge, right? That there's so much energy flowing in children. They just want to move and explore is being suppressed of, hey, sit still. Hey, focus. Now we're going to sit on a chair for the next 5 hours and you just have to watch the board. Like you just have to watch the whiteboard. That's a really traumatic experience for a child. It is boredom. And the experience of boredom is the experience of internal imprisonment. When you, as a child, you experience boredom when you cannot move. You experience boredom when you can render the reality on like an oscillation that is so fucking rapid, but you're forced to like shrink it down and just look at this drawing board, look at this whiteboard. 1 + 1 is 2. That is highly traumatizing for the system. It might not feel super traumatizing because it was normalized, but to take the play away from a child is horrific. And so as you sat there on this little chair, being forced to just sit still, and if you drifted off into imaginary land, you would be called out and called back. That feels like imprisonment for the body. So that's, I mean, unless some severe trauma happened before that, for a lot of us, this is when we happened to dissociate from the body. Before that, we were in the body. We were experiencing life from the body. But that moment where it becomes so uncomfortable to be in the body because our body wants to move. Our body just wants to make that loud noise right now, wants to sing right now. We're suppressing it, suppressing it, suppressing it. The experience of our body becomes almost so painful that we disassociate. All of a sudden, that best friend, our body that we're meant to just play with, becomes a prison. So now our awareness is just here in the mental. We're now being formed into robots. We're now being formed into abiding citizen. Now we're coming back to divine genius. We're coming back to be the ones that were meant to create a world of beauty, meant to create an earth that feels like the celestial realm, heaven on earth. For that, we need our natural genius back and we need our natural divine play back. So now when we have that society where everyone was programmed to exist up here because that body experience just became too painful or became restricted or became like observed all the time and controlled and constricted, this is where we become more bio robots than actual humans. Because a human that has their energetic system just anchored in all the right places, right? A human that is deeply connected to their root, to their lower dantian, to their sexual organs and the way the energy is flowing. Someone who can sit back and relax and just speak from their body. Someone who can just like follow the urges of their body and do a fucking weird noise without being afraid what anyone else is thinking. That is power. That is your superpower. Now, in that state, your existence isn't really easily programmable because you're tapped into your truth. The energy circuitry is perfectly placed. Everything is flowing the way it needs to be. And your source of information is divine truth, is the womb of creation, the mother, the father of the universe, your original creator of the soul. That's where you get your information from. Now, when all of that is shifted upwards and we're basically cut down here because we're dissociated from our body, we are bio robots, because now what happens is this is a very vulnerable field. The mental realm is very easily influenced. This is when you're influenced by the hive mind. This is when you just look outside and you try to adapt and you police every word you're saying. And you try to be just like society is because you want to fit in. You feel anxiety, all of this BS that doesn't exist when you're in your body. Anxiety has no place in your body. There's no such thing. Your body will feel uncomfortable to show you, hey, there's something you're not looking at, so you then uncover it. But this perpetual anxiety, day-to-day anxiety, can only happen when you're influenced by the artificial hive mind. So that everything up here, when not connected to down here, becomes easily programmable by TV, by the distorted sexuality that society is laying out, by music, Hollywood, whatsoever. That was a past thing. It's no longer happening. But you see, then you form a personality that isn't you, and that personality that can't play. That can't play authentically. Play happens as a sensual experience. Play happens in the moment. When you're in your body, you just get to experience. Like as a child, when you would play with sand or mud, you could play forever. You can tap into that same thing as an adult or as a more mature child. I like that more, because we're all eternal children. We're just a more mature child that has now like reached a certain height and can do things by itself and stuff, right? So even us, if you were present with your body, you could lose yourself in the experience of mud and how squishy it feels and how beautiful it feels. Or you could lose yourself in the experience of creating a sand castle and playing with sand for hours. If you have the capacity to be in your body and play, you become a child again. And that creates safety like nothing else. And it creates that quantum leap to your epithemia, to your desires. And how do we get back to the body? For some, that might be a longer journey. The very first and the easiest thing is through breathing. Now, I'm like literally wearing the shittiest outfit for that example. But because this outfit, like this, like, I mean, it's fucking cute and I love it, but it's just really restricting. It's really restricting for my breathing, and it's actually not the best for my body. But again, like yesterday, I was in the garden all day. I was naked, like peeing on my new like set vegetables and fertilizing them and being like a savage outside naked. That was my play day. Today, I want to play like this. I wanted to wear something nice and I wanted to get into that. So, but I'm aware of that. And so I'm aware of my breathing, and I'm becoming more and more aware of my real breath every single moment. So the easiest way is to come back to the breath in your lower abdominal. So most of us, which makes sense, if we're disconnected from our body, our breath is somewhere up here. Like when you watch babies, when they are breathing, you won't see their shoulders move. You almost barely see their upper body move. All you see is it's happening in the belly. Their belly gets big. And that will allow energy current to flow. So now if for 30, 40, 50 years, you breathe mainly from up here, Because again, when we disassociate, disconnect from our body, we forget almost all that lower part, and there's no energy flowing there. The chi circuits, everything is disrupted or almost numb. So to bring back awareness, actually bring back chi, actually bring back circulation, flow, we just need to breathe in our lower belly. And now with me, let's just take a deep breath and put your hands there just to feel if something's moving. Underneath the navel, above the navel. Now make your lungs big, make your lungs wide. Shrink the lungs, shrink the part above the navel, shrink the part of below the belly button. And now do this one more time. Breathe in and make the part, like your womb space, big, like make it big. Make the part above your belly big, like your solar plexus. And now widen your lungs. Now shrink your lungs. Shrink the part of the belly and lower belly. So simple. That breath alone will change the way you relate to reality and your body. Because now you're bringing circulation to places that were untouched for a while. So if there's one thing you change, do that. Just see what happens. Another thing is, of course, just bringing awareness to the spaces. Where am I breathing from? When I'm walking, am I feeling my flower? Am I feeling my womb? Is my womb engaged? Can I feel my beautiful pussy? Is like, what's happening here? Is there something flowing? Is there an energy current flowing? Or am I tightening all of that up? Because tightness in these areas means tightness of creation. It's quite a mirror. Like you will very likely not experience immense creational flow, immense abundance coming through your joy and play when your whole centers are restricted. If you hold your whole like vaginal canal tight all the time, if you hold your womb tight, if there's no breathing in your lower belly. Microcosmos, macrocosmos. Your outer reality will mirror that. So the way we first shift is within. And if all you do is simply do abdominal breathing or lower abdominal breathing for the first minute of the day, trust me, that will shift your life. It might not seem like super productive. It is probably more constructive and more productive than any outside chore you've ever done. And so that is one way to come back to the body. Another way is also that all of these tensions, they have been effective and they have been holding trauma. So as we uncover the traumas in our body will open up. Our body will allow more play. So that is one part. That's why I work with quantum healing and Karsai. So I work with the QHHT realm, which is very much so an out-of-body experience. But then in my in-person sessions, I use body work. Karsai is the genital massage. So I work with women, I work with their wombs, not all the time in our first session, but as we get to know each other. Because nothing is as reprogramming for the existence than someone who can really work with your womb, with your coccyx bone, like your glutes and that area. There's just so much information and nervous system, like tightness when we have trauma. And when we release that and we just work on that area, there is a whole flow of information. So I combine that work because yes, we need the trauma healing, but we also just need to feel our body again. And our body just has to create the allowance for us to have energy flow in these realms again. And I couldn't have done this by myself alone. I needed help for that. And so I provide that help for the women, and I provide a very safe space. I purified my vessel for that specific reason, to be able to work with women on this deep level, because you have to be very aware of who you allow into your field and who you allow to do that reprogramming work for your body. So be very discerning with your massage practitioners, body workers, and that form of massage is very intimate. Very, very intimate. So I did the purification work to be able to actually create openness in someone's field and bring in beauty and bring in safety, rather than to open someone's field and bring in more chaos or bring in my wounding. This is a, I don't even want to call it a job, but this is something that requires a lot of responsibility. And therefore, it doesn't freaking matter how many like certificates someone has in their back pocket. What's their frequency like? So always check if you allow anyone to work with reprogramming you on a subconscious level. Make sure they are of utmost purity. I don't care about their certifications. I don't care about anything but the purity of their field. So now, how do we add the frequency of the God realm, the frequency of play? How do we do this? Let's get into the fun stuff now. Like, how can I add more play? And the first exploration we're going to embark on is communication. If your water feels lame, just literally add 2 drops of rose essence to it, and this becomes a freaking erotic experience. Like, I promise you that. Like, if water feels lame, add rose or just something. Like, it's a whole situation up in here. Communication. And I will take communication in our relationship as an example, but you can take that into your friendships, into everything. Maybe not work, depending on where you are still working. But if you implement that in your life, you're not going to work that job. That you cannot express that for a long time. So do you communicate to play and to create an experience, to wrap someone in a frequency bubble? Or do you communicate to transmit information? Robots communicate to transmit information. Human beings communicate to play and to create an experience, right? Most of the time, if we look around, I mean, yes, there's always that, below the iceberg, subconscious communication going on, but look into your interactions. Are you communicating most of the time to just transmit an information and say something? Or are you communicating to create play? And there's this beautiful example where, like, I share that a lot. Like, when I go out and I observe people, it's just naturally happening. And sometimes I tune them out. But sometimes I'm also, like, just curious. And, like, sometimes it literally feels like 2 robots are having a conversation. Yesterday I did this and I did watch this show. Have you seen this show? Oh, yes, I did this and I have this happened and I was really upset about this. And you're like, whoa, I'm so fucking sorry. Like, is that the way, like, are you, that's happening when you're so traumatized and repressed that you have like almost 0% left of authentic human expression. Now, if you catch yourself communicating mostly to inform, and especially in your relationship, see if you can cut down on 90% of the things you're saying. Because if literally almost all communication is just about transmitting information, like, yes, there are 10% where communication needs to happen because something needs to be like told to your partner. There's information he needs. Or if you have children, there's organization that needs to happen. If you run businesses, there's organization and information that needs to be transmitted. But we're looking into your love relationship right now. And if just all communication is transmitted information, something's wrong here. Or something's at least, it's not even wrong, but something's definitely not working in the highest joy as it could. So see if you could cut down on almost 90% of the things you're saying. And if you're like, well, then I don't have anything to talk about, well, good fucking thing. Talk more with your frequency and less with your mouth. You remove all play from life if you use your voice and your words only to transmit information. Try to switch that. When you communicate with your partner, can you communicate to create more playfulness? Can you communicate to create more erotic play? Can you communicate to create more innocent, child, goofy, silly play? Like, whatever it is. Sometimes it's a battle of wits, and sometimes that can be fun. Sometimes you're busting his balls, and he likes that because he likes a good challenge, right? And he likes a homie. Like, whatever it is, but can you create play? And so there are essentially 3 dimensions that are showing up in our relationship. And the first dimension that is still showing up in a lot of our relationship, that is preventing play at all times, is that traumatized grandma frequency. That 40s programming that our grandma was running, or maybe her parents were running, or the collective was running, is still somehow coming out. And that's the dynamic of like quiet, like housewife, for lack of better terms, or the weird false submissive one, false master. Like the husband that is just like this aggressive, like, whatever, I make the money, you're my slave. Like this weird, like, we know that. And it's interesting. I have to say, it's really interesting in me because my mom didn't carry that. And I didn't carry that. Like, I was a rebel. I was always loud. Like, that came up within my relationships where I realized, well, that isn't really mine. Because I didn't have to shut off from my mom. My mom would just allow me to be wild and do whatever and say whatever. So that submissiveness, that wasn't something I learned in my childhood. That weird submissiveness, and not the good kind of submissiveness. I'm getting into what submissiveness I mean. That's something that was somehow just in my system. And it's something that my grandma was running, and I'm sure her mother. So it's that passive aggressive behavior. It's the feeling like you can't really express your feelings, so you don't express yourself at all anymore. And you're kind of just, if your man like creates an experience that you're not on par with, you just go with it instead of bringing truth to it. Like that typical incident where you're having sex, but you're not enjoying it, but you're also not saying anything. And you're also not redirecting it. You're just letting it happen. And we've all been there, letting it happen. Like that has been, like, at some point in our lives, we did that. Also, there's some very shut down and withholding love. Because if you just allow things to happen and you take them in and you're like, well, whatever, I'll just have to go through them, I just have to get through, which is like this typical dynamic of the aggressive husband and the totally like beaten down wife that is just like, whatever, I just need to keep my mouth shut. But there's also just no love, no polarity, no magnetism, and there's just old wounds repeating themselves, you know? And if, of course, it might not show up in these extreme examples, but just little moments even where your partner might say something that was a little off, and instead of playfully expressing it, you're just like, yeah, whatever. But you count it somewhere, right? Like, that's a dynamic that has absolutely no room for depth of love or for playfulness and magnetism and erotic. Like, anytime something is just like brushed off, or passive aggressive behavior comes in, or just very shut down, repressed behavior in which you just like allow everything to happen, it comes through. And observe yourself when you communicate that way, because that's the opposite of play. The second dimension, before we explore the dimension of utter play, of communication, is the way you communicate with your partner when you're in this boss babe mode and this more so feminized man. Like, it's kind of like the programming that happened in the 70s up until now. It's still running. Like, if you look into the mainstream, they're still running that program. Like that, this like independent woman and the overly feminized man. I don't watch commercials, but if at some point I have to like watch a commercial, it's kind of like the theme that is happening in the mainstream. So that is, to me, just such a love and erotic killer. So in that, I mean, beautiful. We express ourselves, and we speak the truth and we say what we feel. But that is not the art of play. It's still a realm in which play doesn't really have the chance to permeate the experience. It's a lot of like, when you do this, I feel this way, and I don't like this, and I feel that way, and when you do this, and that time you did this, I felt this way. And it's basically castrating your man. And I know a lot of men are so freaking patient with us women. I really have to say that. Your man is not your freaking therapist. And he shouldn't be. That doesn't mean that at no point you can't convey what you are feeling. But how do you convey it? And that dimension of conversation, communication, is more so about like, every freaking emotion has to be turned into this big exploration of trauma. That is not what your man is for. Unless you don't want to get fucked and have a beautiful experience of deep love making. Then go ahead and do that. But this kills all the erotic. This kills all the play. That doesn't mean don't show vulnerability. That doesn't mean you can't cry in front of him. That doesn't mean that you can't like sit down together and share the things that you've been repressing and that been really hurtful. But I see a lot of women that are just over communicating that, and who are basically suffocating their man. They're just constantly dissecting everything that's happening. And it's this whole like this continuous shadow work. And that is not the main purpose of your relationship. He's not your therapist. And when you sit your man down and there's just talking and talking about your feelings and how that made you feel and this made you feel,
your man's balls are shrinking in that moment. Like, he might be there and he might be present, but you're forcing him to do something that might not be natural to him and what he's not meant for. Your man wants conclusions. Your man wants constructive advice. So what you felt is valid and is need to be felt, but maybe it doesn't have to be communicated with your man. Maybe you can create a more playful environment. And the third dimension of that is exactly that. It's play. It's playfulness. That's the way the all-attractive couple communicates. It's through play. There is still room, of course, for expression. There's room for sadness, all of it. There's a room for all the range of expression. But it might be a more spontaneous expression. It might be a more creative expression. That when your man says something that is hurtful, right, instead of just shutting down, maybe you can like very theatrically or very like knowingly express like, whoa, my heart, daddy, like what the fuck was that? I'm hurt. You know, and not in a shame, like what the fuck was that? But daddy, like that hurt me. And I'm just like making up things. That's not the way I express myself always. It depends what like stage we're in. Like if we're super vulnerable, childlike, that might be the way. But however, like remember that the masculine has been through a lot of desensitization. So his nervous system is really thick, right? So he might be a little more rough, but that's what makes your man that protector. That's the beauty of him. So he might say something that isn't like totally in tune with your like feelings or what you need in that moment. And you can express that. Express it playfully. You can also come up and say, daddy, remember, you got to take care of me. You got to take care of my feelings. You're so rough. If you want to be rough, let's create a different space for that. I have an idea. Right? That, like, it can be expressed in so many ways. I'm just giving you examples. I'm not that might not be the most authentic expression in the moment. That might not be how I would express myself. I'm just coming up with things. Make it fun again. And let the focus drift off of you. This is about your union. The playful master, the empress as the master player, creates playfulness for the moment. You transcend that whole, oh, I did this, you did that. It transcends that because it's about, well, phew, what experience do we both want to experience? And you can trust that both you and your partner will always want to create more play. You will always want to experience more intimacy, depth, authenticity, laughter. So you're on the same boat, right? So this whole like, I felt this way and that way and that way, if it's not expressed spontaneously in the moment by maybe tears or by maybe, oh, I'm sad now, or hey, can I have a hug? That was really rough. I need you to hold me, or I need you to kiss me really tender now to make up for that mean comment. Like, right? If you cannot manage to bring in play in the exact moment where it's happening, which is the best case scenario, it's not always going to work like that. If you have to go back into the room, back into your like private space and process, he doesn't have to know all the feelings you went through. But come back with a conclusion. Come back with a, not even conclusion, but come back with something constructive. He will love that. If you give him something to work on, he'll be like all excited to be like, yeah, let's do that. But if you share how something made you feel, he doesn't really know what to do with that. Maybe he doesn't know how to different now. But if you give him examples of like, hey, let's create more play this way. Hey, let's create more safety in that way. Hey, let's create more erotic and sensuality in this way. He will be all about it. So the focus of the Empress as the playmaster to create that communication for that all attractive couple, the couple that magnetizes all the beauty of this world and gets to share it. They conversate and communicate and play. So that's probably the most vital aspect to incorporate when we speak about the frequency of play. So keep that really like deeply in your field. And I'm just checking, I don't want to forget anything. And that will also just, that way of expression will just naturally create magnetism, just naturally. And I fuck up. Like I just had a conversation on like a couple days ago on Sunday that went completely like the opposite direction. Actually, I didn't conversate in any of these dimensions. I conversated in the fourth dimension, which is the wrath of the dragon. Like I was just like freaking going nuts. Right? So it's like we live and we learn. And yeah, at least my expression was authentic, but it was also really like wild and intense, and not a lot of men could handle that, right? So we play with that. We play with that. That doesn't mean you can never get angry. That doesn't mean you can never get like expressive in the moment. That's not what that means. But let play and creative play be the focus. What are other ways to create more play? And the next one is, can you move and play? How do you move through life? Repetition is hypnosis. Think about that and really let that sink in. Repetition is hypnosis. So anytime you do something just over and over again the same way, you're entering a state of hypnosis. So let's think about how robots move, right? Robots don't jump, dance, swing from A to B. I mean, maybe very advanced robots, but you know what I mean. Like machines, they transport something from A to B. And a lot of us humans are walking through life like we're freaking robots. Like that vessel is just meant to get you from A to B. We forgot that the movement of this vessel is the greatest gift we've ever received, because it's the gift of energy manipulation. It's the gift of play. But if we move through life like this, repetition is hypnosis. So if we keep our body in always just a certain state or a certain range of motion, that comes with repetitive thoughts. And so repetitive thoughts will affect our movement, and our movement will have an effect on our repetitive thoughts. So we can work on both ends here. As you're moving differently, as you're breaking out of movement patterns, you will break out of thought patterns. As you play more with your body, you will allow new frequencies to come in. As you work on your thought patterns and you observe your thought patterns and you reprogram that, you will find new spaciousness in your body. You will likely find new ways of moving. But in general, can you dance more? Like, be like a child again. What does your body want to do? When you get up, does your body really want to walk like this? Or does your body want to like just jiggle to the other room? Does your body just want to jump to the other room? Do you just want to do spontaneous twerks every now and then, right? Like, I'm sure my face looked really silly. I was twerking. Right? Whatever you want to do, allow your body to show you, and you just follow along. Like, rather than holding yourself in this rigid, like, this is how it has to be. Like, Very German, very German. You're not a robot. Be a child again. Be like a monkey swinging from tree to tree. A monkey won't sit still. Like a monkey just will eat his banana while like climbing on a tree, and like we're similar in that regard. Maybe you don't want to sit down and eat. I know like there are a lot of like practices and ancient practices that tell you be quiet and still while you're eating. But guess what? I think have joy while you're eating. And if the way you enjoy your food is like, well, being on the freaking kitchen counter and standing up or walking around, you do you. Like I worked as a waitress many, many years, so I would always just like snack and like eat something on the go. And while, yeah, that can be a bad habit, I still like to eat standing up. And some people tell me it's bad, but if I enjoy it, I enjoy it. And if I have joy, my body has joy. If I play, my digestion is just perfect. So explore, like break the patterns. If you would play with life, how would you engage in this? So same thing with the way you dress. Do you play with your clothing? Or is it just a necessity for you? And it doesn't matter if you have a 9 to 5 job and you have to be dressed a certain way. Cool. Come back home and dress the way you like to dress. Because as you play with your clothing, again, you can create safety. Like if I think about that, there was this one moment that really changed the way I interacted with my clothing. And it was years ago. And I mean, before that, as a child, I did. But there was a moment in time where I lost like just the joy in playing with my clothing because I didn't feel safe. So I would dress to cover up, or I would dress to like so my curves wouldn't show, or I wouldn't seem slutty, or I would dress to, like according to my mood, which was very gray. So in while I was living in Germany, I would dress very like, yeah, just no colors, and sweaters and like hipster a little bit, but like what was I doing? I wasn't playing with it. And I mean, Germany is cold too, so there wasn't that range to play with stuff. But when I moved to the US, there was a moment in San Diego, and I saw this gorgeous Latina mommy with her young son. And she was walking through the streets like it was poetry. Like it was poetry in motion. Just this gorgeous woman, and she was wearing a full-on yellow dress. That moment changed my life forever. It changed the way I perceived clothing. It changed the way I perceived femininity. It was just one of these moments where I'm like, yo, you have no idea how you just eternally affected a stranger just by being you. Like she was a joy to witness. She was the absolute picture of safety. By her being in this beauty, being in this joy, being in this radiance, she was playing with life. And just looking at her made the whole environment feel a million times safer, whether any other person had the awareness to see or not. That was life-changing. That's the moment when I started to dress differently. That's the moment when I realized, wait, dressing like a freaking slob is selfish. I am dressing not only for my embodiment, my clothing and the way I show up will affect other people's lives. If I am wearing color, if I am wearing something beautiful, everyone around me will feel safe. even the women that might be triggered by that, something internally will still feel like the universe is at peace. When a woman can play, the universe is at peace. So when a woman can play with her clothing, life is safe. And I remember that even when I was living in like really crappy circumstances and not the nicest living environments, the moment I would like turn on my music, light some candles, like get ready, wear something beautiful, wear lingerie, I would feel safe. And part of that is the way I would show up. Like back in the days, like I would like oftentimes like dress really like masculine and just like whatever. But I always had like this affinity to lingerie, and it created such a safety. Anytime I was wearing it, even just for myself, there was a different feel of safety in my body. Beauty equals safety. So I do that now. Like my Sundays are just no phone days. They're just for play and sensual play with my partner. So all Sundays I just wear lingerie and a kimono and just like something light. And it just makes this environment so safe. It creates this bubble of beauty, and it creates this bubble of honey-like safety. So play with that and see how you can create even more safety for your field and yourself through clothing. And how you do one thing is how you do everything. So what about the other areas in life? Right? And we've been on for a while. But what about your workouts? I work out like a madman. Like I work out like a freaking Viking. But I was also at a point where I'm like, yo, does it have to be so serious? And now I try to like move in between my sets. I like to twerk it out in between my sets. And a big inspiration for that was, her name is I think Trab Yoga Bay. She's just incredible. Like go and look her up on Instagram. I'm not on Instagram a lot, but I remember like back then I'm like, yo, she's so fun. Like what the F am I doing? So like she's just like getting it on. Like she's working out, but she doesn't forget to have fun. So I'm like, I like, she was a big inspiration. Also my man, like he has fun. Like he plays with life. So when we work out together, he's just fucking killing it, and he's singing and he's dancing and he's admiring himself in the mirror, and he's coming over and he's making jokes, and that's just like he's creating a vibe in the gym, a vibe of play, a vibe of safety. Haters will come in. They don't get what he's actually doing. Haters don't get that he's actually like consciously creating safety for others. Like that's a vibe. So I'm like, yo, I want to play more. Like I can still crush my workouts, but I have to be like I can move throughout, like and move my body and shake up my body and have some fun with that stuff. And it's because I got into this habit because I was so depressed back then, and workouts was really the only way I could let out these intense emotions. So it just became this habit of like my workouts became really intense in nature. How do you cook? Like how you do one thing is how you do everything. How do you cook? I had to like see with myself that when we have our like gatherings and we invite people and I have like a whole day to cook, I have fun with it. Like I turn on music, I dance, I play, I take my sweet time. But sometimes when I prepare for myself, I get into this, gotta get this done quick, gotta chop this up real quick. And I'm like, yo, that's not fun. So how can you bring play to that? Can you turn up the music? Can you listen to something fun? Like, how can you add more joy to that? Even how you drive a car. How you drive a car. Like, yo, you see people driving around like that. And then you see people driving with one arm, singing along and dancing and fucking having a great time. Now, of course, be safe for other drivers, but you know, like, it's a frequency you can literally bring into every activity. How do you have sex? How do you explore that? When you come into that space with goal orientation, you basically remove play. When you come into it with a childlike curiosity of like, yo, I'm just going to explore your body and everything is allowed, and there's no rush, there is no aim, no goal, there is just play. Let's see where we go. You will have the most ecstatic, transformative, lovemaking experience of your life through play. Play to play. Play to play. Like, do whatever that is. Play your video game if you like. Of course, there's a thin line between addiction but go back inner child mode. Literally play. Make some art. Like, whatever play is for you. Sing. Really sing. Get instruments. Like, play with life again. Music is one of the most beautiful expressions of play. Express that again. Art, however you play with life, make everything play. Even play with your inner work. There are ways to play with our shadows. And I love that perspective that I think Carolyn Elliott is her name, like existential kink. Like I wrote I didn't write the book. I read the book years ago. But even that, like, yeah, that's like, I like that. You create everything. You pretending you're a victim isn't play. There are limitations in your life. And as much as you have this desire, this epithemia for this one thing, there are an even amount of things within you that do not want that. And we will work through them, but you might work with them in joy. You might play with them. This will leave, but it leaves more gracefully and easy if you actually accept it, right? If you tell something to go the fuck away, to leave your field right now, it sometimes doesn't work like that. Because it's part of you that like want to be heard and want to be seen. So I love that approach that she brought into my life. Where it's, and not just her, like other teachers were bringing that, where they were like, yo, you are a kinky ass little fucking son. Stop pretending like you don't like it. There's a part of you that loves to be limited. There's a part of you that freaking loves to never get what she wants and cries for. Don't pretend like you don't like it. Play with that. There's a part of you that loves to create devastation and chaos. You're like nature. Don't pretend that you don't like it. You freaking get off on that shit. There's a way to play with that. Our limitations are ruling our reality. Our limiting beliefs that are unconscious are setting up the structures for this reality. A part of us indulges in these structures. So let's stop pretending like we don't. So even see in shadow work, even there, we can add playfulness. However we like to like wrap it. There's so much opportunity for play. So much so. And last one, most important one, not the most important, but really important. Your business. Your business. How do you add play? How do you infuse your business, which is an extension of you? That's it. How do you infuse play with that? Fuck professionalism, like for real. I hate this word. I hate this word. Fuck that. No one needs professionalism. We need experts and expertise. That's different. Professionalism is attempting to show up in a way that people think you know what you're doing. But if you know what you're doing, and if you know what you're providing, you don't have to mask yourself in professionalism. You have experience, therefore you have expertise, which makes you an expert. As an expert, you can show up in whichever way you want because you know you'll provide the best freaking service. You know you are the safest space. You know you have the best freaking product. Expertise. And so let me just, if I think about like two brands that just come to mind right now, is actually that really play and you can feel the playfulness. One of them is Anthony's. I don't know if you guys know that, but it's this random company. Like anytime I like order something on Amazon, like nuts or some healthy flour substitutes or goji berries, there's this company, I think they're like, they just have like a lot of health foods, and they're called Anthony's. But their packaging is just really fun. They always have like this weird little like quote or a joke, corny dad joke on one of their packages, and they just feel fun. They feel fun. Or Oatly. I think Oatly is one of these, like, they feel like a fun company. Maybe they're crappy. I don't know. Maybe they're shitty in the back of it, but this comes to mind. Or Mudwater. Like, I love Mudwater because he's just a real person. And one of his first slogans was "fuck your morning coffee." Like, it was just that realness and that play. He had beautiful aesthetics, but he didn't have to be professional. Like, it didn't have to be so over the top, masking itself in professionality. We want fun. We want expertise, fun, play. Something we can trust. So how do you infuse your business with more play? I see so many coaches that all just like, it's the same freaking logo design. It's the same freaking colors they use. It's just all the same. They attempt to fit in. Like a lot of human design coaches, it's just all the same freaking fonts they use. And just like, I want it to look professional. No one cares. No one cares. People care about your frequency. Only you can teach human design like no other can, because only you get to perceive human design through your eyes, and that's just an example. But it's like leave this realm of professionalism. That doesn't mean it can't have great quality and stuff like that, but leave this realm of attempting to look like and rather be that. Stop attempting to look like and be that, and be play in that. And so one of the greatest advices I give myself all the time is, I can either wear the face of all my trauma, or I can wear the face of my most ecstatic, joyful memory as an imprint on my face. I get to choose. And you see, when you look at most people, they choose trauma. They choose to wear trauma on their face. Regardless of what I walked through, I always come back and I choose joy. I choose a smiling face. Anytime I showed up for people, I chose to remember the joy. And I chose to remember the imprint of ecstasy on my face. And ecstasy might not be a good example, because ecstasy can have many wild faces. You might scare some people. Wear the face of tranquil bliss. Just a subtle smile. Remember the feeling of tranquil bliss. There are moments when you touched it, even when it was just for a millisecond. I love you so much. And again, I am open for sessions. On September 1st, I am open for another container of one-on-one work if you want to dive deep. So I am here for support if you want to step into more of that delicious joy, that Empress Playmaster. And I'm learning this day by day, moment to moment. It's the way we give to the world, it's the way we give back safety. I love you.